So hello, welcome to the Popcorn Counter here at the Two Real Cinema Club. I'm James Rosica.
And I'm Andres Lorente.
And I've got I always start these Popcorn Counter conversations with a question. I've got a question for you now, right?
Okay.
So imagine you're moving house and you see a lovely place. It's in your price range. The location is ideal. There's enough space for a workshop and a home cinema room. It's ticking all your boxes, but and you're going to have to correct me on this. What's the in the UK we say estate agent. You say realtor. Is that right? What do you say?
Yeah, realtor.
What's the person who sells properties?
Yeah, or real estate agent. Yeah,
real estate agent.
Okay, yeah, real estate agent or real estate broker, maybe. Yeah.
So you're thinking about putting in an offer on the house, and the real estate agent tells you, oh, by the way, the previous inhabitants, don't blame me for this, but they used to joke about how the house was haunted.
Ooh.
Does that make the property less or more appealing?
Well, I love the house I'm living in, so I'm not ready to move. I'm not shopping, so I'm going to bring that bias to the question. I think it makes it less appealing personally, unless you can turn it into a business. Like on Halloween, that whole week or week before, week after, you can actually do some tours and bring in big money. Then it's appealing.
So in other words, saving your eternal soul is one thing, but cold hard cash, that's what you're really interested in.
Yes, absolutely. I wouldn't be worried about ghosts. Are actually mostly friendly, like Casper. Casper was a friendly ghost. So I think my one ghost experience I've talked about before, it was not that scary. It was just jarring for a moment, but it made sense to me. So I think...
this is the story where you woke up screaming in an Icelandic man's bedroom. Is that right?
Yes, it was a shared bedroom, to be honest. But yes, yeah. So I think, it depends on how haunted it is.
So you're not going to run a mile. You're going to ask the realtor for more details. Like how much money can I make out of this ghost?
On a scale of $10,000 a year to $100,000 a year in profits, how haunted is the place?
Because the reason I ask is because I had, after watching all these ghost films last week, and I spent the week thinking about ghosts, and I reckon, tell me what you think of this, I think that all films are ghost films.
Ooh, pray tell.
Because the nature of cinema is that you sit in a dark room with a bunch of strangers. You might not be holding hands, but it's kind of like a 21st century seance. And then you watch flickering images of people who aren't there or things that happened in the past. Cinema is all about projected apparitions. So every film, in a way, is a ghost film because, those flickering lights and those two-dimensional lies on the wall are exactly what ghosts are. If you were to show a 17th century man or woman a film, then ghosts would be the easiest way that they would be able to comprehend it. Am I not right?
I think you are, yeah. Like apparitions, they would comprehend it as visions of otherworldly characters. It's interesting, though, because we always talk about this comparison of film to a collective dream state, and maybe like a dream would be a non-horror film, and for horror film or ghost film, technically it could be a collective nightmare state. But I mean, so many films are just blatantly ghost stories or blatantly horror stories, and then the others that are more subtle. I mean, I'm not ready to make a full agreement with you here because it's such a bold statement. Do you have more to say? Is there more to back up the argument?
The good thing about ghost film is that a ghost is a great way to make a metaphor. So I was going through some of my favourite specific ghost films and trying to pick out, well, what is the metaphor for each of these films? That ghost films can use their premise to explore a whole wide range of ideas. So before we started recording, you told me that you had never seen Ghost from 1990. Is that how have you managed not to see Ghost?
I don't know. I think I was The cast. I think I was a little ambivalent about Whoopi Goldberg, Patrick Swayze, and Demi Moore. So I think it was just the casting. I thought, how can that be good? And then there's the pottery scene, and is he hugging her or isn't he hugging her? And is he the hand of God? And that was, you see the trailers when they review films or whatnot. It just didn't look appealing to me. But now it's probably been a musical and a play, and was there a Ghost 2 or something like that? I don't know.
I don't know whether there was a Ghost 2. It's a great date night movie. Next time you have date night, you should just sit together on the sofa and watch Ghost.
But are we going to cry? I'm worried that I'm going to cry and then also be scared.
You probably won't cry. You'll probably just get the horn, I think. I think that's mostly how it works, I think. So Ghost, it has this famous, scene with the pottery wheel. Yeah, and there's all that. And interesting, I had forgotten that Ghost was the Oscar-winning script in 1990.
Wow.
So Bruce Joel Rubin, who we might come back to later in the podcast, won the Oscar for Best Script for Ghost. And it's a pretty cute film, actually. But it's the way it uses the ghost of the title is as a metaphor for a kind of mourning. So early on in the film, Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze are a couple, and then Patrick Swayze gets killed. And a lot of the film is about is talking about the way that she mourns him, but more specifically, I think she is quite specifically mourning the death of her sex life. So it's about this. I think she has like a very specific kind of physical longing for him, and that's what the film is trying to address, trying to talk about. So the ghost is a metaphor for the death of your sex life when your kind of significant other dies.
So is that what they mean when they say giving up the ghost? Or is that just going celibate?
As opposed to the ghost giving it up, yes.
I do like this element of living more than one life at the same time, which comes out a lot of the ghost stories. It's like you've got your corporal life, I guess, when you're actually in a body, and then you've got this other life. Maybe it's the imagination, maybe it's an after-death state or whatnot, but I do like the idea of a few lives happening at the same time. And I think that's kind of part of the ghost myth as well, because I do feel like we all have, we've made certain choices and we think about the past, and ghosts are a great way to think about the past because you've got this person who was something in the past then coming back in another form in the future. And I love that idea of just having a couple, even if it's imaginary, these other lives that you're living.
I mean, ghost films are they're usually fairly explicitly about trying to cope with the notion of death, or the death of the people close to you, or your own death. So I wrote down my little list here. So The Sixth Sense, 1999, M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
I always take your advice on how to pronounce these difficult names, but I think that's how you'd say it.
I think that's good.
Okay. That's the film which has the great twist that everybody loves. Yeah. But I think what it's talking about is about the stages of grief, isn't it? So I think as a theme, the film is exploring the notion of mourning, of moving on, of moving through the stages of grief, in much the same way that, say, something like, so I think Citizen Kane, in a way, is a ghost film. But the whole film is talking about Kane, who has died at the beginning of the film. So, in a way, he is a ghost throughout the film. But he is haunted by the ghost of the life that he had not lived. So he has sort of spent his adult life mourning the death of his own childhood. And then, the film is about peeling back those layers and uncovering that kind of central mourning of his life, which then ruined his life.
Bam! You just hit the nail on the head for me. That's exactly sort of what I was trying to explain before, where he's mourning this other life and he's kind of living this other life in his imagination, but he's stuck with the unhappier life, and in that life and in his death, he's still haunting these other characters who he's encountered in the life that did happen, I guess. That's good. Citizen Kane is a ghost film. I also think that, you've definitely got some great points here in terms of also just how we talk about death. Humans generally aren't really comfortable with it, but we're fascinated by it. And for many people, it's much easier to talk about people that's living on. Like they haven't died entirely. They're out there. Their spirits out there somewhere. And it's kind of easier to understand death through the vantage point of ghosts, I guess. And I think that's maybe why it's another cultural touchstone, is because it gives us a way to sort of talk about or envision death that maybe opens up this opportunity for an afterlife, whether it exists or not. But it's easier than actually sitting down and going through the macabre and the morose. This isn't the happiest popcorn counter we've ever had. These guys are going to kick us out of here, I think.
Oh God, we're about to talk about that 1 a.m. wide-eyed panic, isn't it? When you wake up in the middle of the night and realise, oh my God, I'm going to die one day.
Yeah.
But then I was like just noting down the names of ghost movies which I had enjoyed, but figuring out that a lot of them are about something which is not death.
Yeah.
So for example, The Shining.
Yeah.
That's a ghost movie, isn't it?
Definitely.
So, Jack Nicholson is effectively haunted by ghosts, and yet I think what the film is trying to explore is psychosis, isn't it? I think in the real material world of the film, he is having a psychotic episode, and yet the film is exploring it through the metaphor of ghosts.
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, when we were talking about our favourite scary movies, and you brought up The Ring.
Yeah, put it on my list here right now too. Sixth Sense and The Ring. You've got all my favorites right there.
That's because these are the best ghost films.
Yeah, they are.
But The Ring is it's about people being haunted by a ghost that sort of lives in a VHS cassette.
Yeah.
But I think that the notion of what it's trying to explore is something which, so that film was made in 1998. Before there was a name for the thing which the film was exploring, and I've written in my list here, I think that film is about memes, isn't it? It's about the notion of ideas that spread from one brain to another. The idea is that you share this videotape and then somehow you pass the ghost on to somebody else.
Yeah.
In the same way that you share a meme, you spread the idea. And that's what gets it out into the world. I think that's the notion that it's trying to explore. Or more than that, have you ever seen It Follows?
No, definitely not. No.
So it's 10 years ago now. David Robert Mitchell, he made Under the Silver Lake. I don't know if you saw that. It Follows is also a kind of a ghost film, insofar as, do you know the premise of the movie? It's about...
I don't.
It's about young people who discover that there's a supernatural entity which is stalking them, and the only way to get rid of it is to have sex with somebody.
Ooh.
And then it starts stalking the person that you passed it on to by having sex with somebody. And the entity only moves at the pace of a person on foot.
Yeah.
So if you're 200 miles away, then you've got a bit of breathing space. But when it catches up with you, you will die. And it's using this kind of this supernatural, weird, ghostly notion. Really what it's exploring, I think, is HIV. But it's exploring it through the notion of what if HIV instead was a ghost? It was something that we could understand in a cinematic manner, in a sort of a more visual storytelling idea. So I think you can use a ghost to explore all sorts of interesting ideas, not just life and death.
Yeah, It Follows. That sounds good because it's it also plays on the trope of the teenagers who have sex in the old horror movies are the first ones to get killed by the monsters or
yes.
evil people. Yeah, so it's playing on that trope, which is very nice. But I think there would be a metaphor for sexually transmitted diseases or HIV there for sure. With The Ring is so scary, but now we don't use VHS anymore. Once they changed the format to DVD, that film became unscary. I still think that's a really, really scary film, and I love the fact that they're using VHS, which is kind of a scary technology to begin with. So,
I think the hipster kids are watching VHS tapes.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Again, I think they come back like vinyl. I think so.
They should come visit me. I'd make a killing just selling them the old tapes. Go steal some from the library and hawk them to the hipsters.
So now, once I started on this list, then I started to get a little bit wackier. So, what do you think about this? Other ghost movies. Drag Me to Hell. Have you seen that?
No.
Which is a 2009 film about a woman who curses a bank worker after she is turned down for a personal loan. And I think that is using ghosts as a way to explore the notion of personal financing.
Yeah.
Oculus, I don't know if you've seen that, which is a 2013 film, a low-budget horror film about a haunted mirror. And I think, again, supposedly it's a ghostly mirror, but what it's really exploring, I think, is vanity.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tip my hat to Vertigo, the Hitchcock picture, 1958.
Mm-hmm.
Insofar as Maddie, is kind of a ghost, isn't it? Or at least she kind of puts on this show of being. She pretends that she is haunted by a ghost of a woman from the past as her way of seducing James Stewart. But I think what that film is really about. That film is about everything. That film is about a lot. It's a tremendously rich picture. But I think the central theme that it's exploring is regret. I think it's using ghosts as a way to talk about regret.
Yeah.
And then the last one on my list here, Cabin in the Woods. Have you seen that?
That's recent, isn't it?
2012, yes.
Oh, that's not recent. Cabin in the
Woods. When you get to our age, 2012 is like just last week. Directed by Drew Goddard, but written by Joss Whedon and Drew Goddard. Joss Whedon, someone whose career is a little bit tainted these days. Again, it's not necessarily somebody whose work I want to amplify, but that is a story which takes a lot of horror tropes and stirs them all together in a big melting pot, and it's using ghosts and the supernatural, I think, to explore the notion of cinema itself. I think it's a movie about movies, but it's doing it in a clever, cute way through the medium of ghosts. You can explore anything with a ghost.
You can. I think the important thing is to explore something, right? Because then the film actually means something. And these are all, I think, all the titles. You've come up with some great titles there, and they sound like they're aspiring to do something. They have a message. They're executed in such a way to communicate that message. Whereas, the average ghost film probably doesn't do that. So I think, if you have the intention to use it as a metaphor and try and tell the audience something, or explore a question even, then I think it's a valid way to tell a story for sure.
There's one film, which exemplifies that on my naughty list, which is last year's Haunted Mansion, Disney movie, which I suspect you haven't seen. I hope for your sake you haven't seen it.
I have not seen it.
Well, and that is, surprise, it's a film about a haunted mansion, and they've tried to make a hit movie out of a Disney theme park ride the same way they did with Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure that the theme they're trying to explore in the film Haunted Mansion is how to make money from a theme park ride.
Yeah.
And that is as sophisticated as it is. It's really pretty terrible.
Yeah,
and it's a shame because it's a relatively good cast, and there's no reason why it shouldn't have been good, but it's not good.
Yeah, like Pirates, I suppose the title says it all. It's just on the nose.
Once again, it sounds like our conclusion is good art is about something.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I think you've got to have a reason to tell a story. A story should be about something. So when we looked at Beetlejuice, we were saying, what's that about? What are they trying to tell us? And it sounded more, hey, it made money, right? It's already made its money. So
it's already, what's it, $254 million at the time of recording.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
So, exactly. Who needs a theme when you've got cold, hard cash?
Exactly. Hey, that janitor over there looks like Danny DeVito.
That is another good reason why we should get out of here.
Sweep us out of this place.
We should leave before Monica Bellucci arrives.
Yes, this is great. Let's not watch the movie.
Get that out.